How powerful is Cox Internet? So powerful that one day, your daughter will be able to simulate a soccer match against some of the world's best players right from your backyard. Get gig speeds powered by fiber from Cox. It's internet built for tomorrow, today. Internet delivered through Cox's hybrid fiber coax network. Speeds vary and are not guaranteed. Cox terms and other restrictions apply.
Why?
If you have T-Mobile 5G home internet, you might be hearing this
Why?
a lot.
Why?
Every time your internet slows down during the busiest hours.
Why?
Because your network gives priority to cell phone users.
Why?
Good question. Why not switch to Cox Internet with 2 times faster download speeds than T-Mobile 5G home internet during peak hours?
Okay.
Stop the whys and visit cox.com/5G home for details. T-Mobile prioritizes certain T-Mobile phone users over home internet users during times of congestion.
For me, traveling and being in new environments, it is enriching, and it opens my mind to new experiences, new ways of doing things. It keeps me, I guess, on my toes, and like spiritually speaking, it helps me be in an expansive mindset. And I think if you can like combine the spiritual with the tactical, I think that can be deadly. And traveling helps me on the spiritual side.
What is going on, nomads and entrepreneurs? Welcome back to another episode of the Nomad Entrepreneur Podcast. I want to thank you so much for joining me again. My name is Daniel, following me by your host. And this episode is going to be another fire one. I know I say this quite often now after every episode, and that is because I have the best conversations with the guests that I have on, and I couldn't be more proud and grateful that I'm able to talk to all these people. You know, people who are building stuff, doing some great things, building multi-million-dollar businesses in some cases. And today is no different because I had the pleasure of speaking with the CEO and co-founder of GreenPal, Bryan Clayton. And GreenPal is an online platform that connects homeowners with local lawn care professionals. And under Bryan's leadership, GreenPal has grown into a multi-million-dollar company with over 200,000 active users and has been featured in publications like Forbes and Entrepreneur. And GreenPal, under Bryan's leadership, has been able to grow its revenue to over $30 million. And the most fascinating thing about this story is that Bryan has been able to do all of this while traveling to over 47 countries. Bryan is a digital nomad through and through, and when he reached out to me, I just felt, you know what? This is a perfect guest for the Nomad Entrepreneur Podcast and for my listeners. So this episode, we dive into Bryan's story, how he went from, being, having a background in landscaping to, selling this company and now going on a different trajectory to founding a tech company, something that he had no experience in. Bryan went from almost spending his entire fortune from his previous company by hiring a company to build the first prototype of your GreenPal. And that didn't go exactly as planned. And Bryan went on to teach himself how to code. And by learning how to code, they came up with the first prototype that began to see commercial success. Bryan's story is one of resilience, one of hard work, and just sheer perseverance. And it just gives meaning to that saying that where there is a will, there is a way. So this conversation is going to be really inspiring for you. It's filled with a lot of gems, a lot of advice, a lot of strategy on hiring, on delegating, and pretty much everything that you would need to build a company from scratch if that's what you're currently doing right now. So thank you again for joining me on another episode of the Nomad Entrepreneur Podcast. If you haven't yet left the feedback for this podcast, I want to invite you to do that right now. It helps with discoverability. My goal is to make this podcast the top podcast for people in the digital nomad community. And this can only happen if we can get more people to listen and to discover the awesome content that I will be bringing you. So please do that wherever you get your podcast from, whether that's on Spotify, Apple, Deezer, Google Podcasts, whatever that is. It really helps a lot. And without further ado, let us dive right into this episode and let's listen to Bryan Clayton's story of building GreenPal. But before we do that, let us cue the intro and I will see you on the other side. Welcome to Nomad Entrepreneur, the podcast for digital nomads and remote working entrepreneurs who are living life on their own terms. I'm your host and fellow nomad, Daniel Faonikbe, and I'm excited to bring you conversations with inspiring individuals who are building businesses from anywhere in the world. Each episode will dive into their stories, tips, and strategies for creating a successful and fulfilling location-independent lifestyles. So grab your headphones, kick back, and join me as I explore the freedom and adventure of the nomadic life. Let's get started. All right, welcome to the Nomad Entrepreneur Podcast, Bryan Clayton. Super exciting to have you here. Thanks for joining me.
Awesome, Daniel. Thanks for having me on your show.
Absolutely. So if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening on audio, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever that is, Bryan Clayton is an entrepreneur, an author, and a speaker who has built a successful career by focusing on hard work, perseverance, and innovation. Bryan is the co-founder and CEO of GreenPal, which is an online platform that connects homeowners and local lawn care professionals. And under Bryan's leadership, GreenPal has grown into a multi-million-dollar company with over 200,000 active users and has been featured in publications like Forbes and Entrepreneur. And prior to starting GreenPal, Bryan founded Peachtree, which is a landscaping company that it grew to become one of the largest in the state of Tennessee with over $10 million in annual revenue. And Peachtree was eventually acquired by Lusa Holdings, a national company. And Bryan has also been recognized for his leadership and entrepreneurial spirit by organizations like the Nashville Business Journal, which named Bryan as one of the 40 under 40 honorees. And Bryan's entrepreneurial journey is a testament to the power of hard work, determination, and a willingness to take risks. He is passionate about helping others achieve their own success and is always looking for ways to give back to the community, which is why Bryan is here today. But one thing that is very notably missing in that introduction is the fact that while doing all of this, you've managed to visit over 47 countries, traveling while doing this, which is what I, find a little bit, more fascinating than other things. I know other things are interesting, but tell me about, that specifically. How are you able to, juggle building a multi-million-dollar company with being able to see the world? Is this something that just excites you, or is it out of your, spirit of adventure? And what is that about, really, before we dive into other things?
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, Daniel, and thanks for that great introduction. And so the last 5 years, while building GreenPal, I've just been traveling basically full time, 11 months out of the year, just going from one city to another. I like to spend a month in a place, or maybe two, and just get a feel for it, and work while I do it. And it's been a really good balance for me. I didn't anticipate or set out to live this kind of nomadic lifestyle intentionally, but something happened about 5 years ago. I was building our business GreenPal, working 6-7 days a week, sometimes 100-hour weeks, getting the business going, getting the marketplace going. And there was my neighbor in the building where I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, was a successful entrepreneur that I looked up to. He had built a successful restaurant chain in the United States. And he one day got diagnosed with brain cancer. And he was probably 5 or 6 years older than me. And I watched this guy, like, in 6 months, lose everything, lose all of his health, lose all of his mobility. I used to go over and help him, get out of bed in the morning and help him make dinner at night. And he would tell me stories about the restaurant business and how he built a successful chain of restaurants. And I just found that guy fascinating. And sadly, he died. He died of brain cancer about 6 months, 8 months after battling it. So experiencing that, watching this guy who was about my age lose everything to just some bad luck, really shook me and woke me up. And I thought, man, my mission of building this marketplace and scaling a big tech business is consuming me, and I'm not living. And I haven't been for 6 or 7 months, or for 6 or 7 years. And I thought, well, I'm just going to do a little bit of traveling. I'd never been to Australia, so I booked a trip to Australia, and I just fell in love with it, and spent a month out there. And I started to realize I'm actually doing better work while being in these new environments. I'm more inspired. I'm getting more done in less time because of like a forcing function with time constraints, because I want to go out and see and do things. So I'm putting better quality hours in, and so I got back home after 2 months of traveling throughout Australia and Southeast Asia, and the moment I got back, I just wanted to be back out there or back out somewhere. and so it very much was addicting. And I remember that I just from that moment forward just started traveling as much as I could and figuring out how to run this business. Our team we had 4 or 5 people based in Nashville. Now our team is 40 something, but I just made us all fully remote, fully distributed team, figured out how to do it. And now I haven't looked back. I'm still living this nomadic lifestyle. I'm actually in Nashville, Tennessee, where I live now, but I'm getting ready to head back out to Europe for a couple of months. And so for me, it's like the business affords me this lifestyle, and the lifestyle is what inspires me to grow the business. It's this nice, fulfilling loop.
Right. I mean, that's an interesting story, and it's quite fascinating how sometimes, because I haven't experienced loss myself of a very close one. I mean, a close relative, my dad, to be precise. I think it's really what set me on this path that I'm on right now, because just like you said, you see someone who was so full of life and with all these aspirations and goals, and in such a short period of time, everything just went out the window, and all of that just seemed all of the goals just seemed unaccomplishable in a way. So it's quite interesting how one person's life story just affects us, and probably just puts us on a different course entirely. And what I also find fascinating, is the fact that you said something around the fact that you built this business to be able to live a lifestyle, but the business end up, being that thing that pushed your life in a different course. Exactly. So, I mean, how did that, come about? Like, when you got out there on the road, I know a lot of people, especially a lot of high performing CEOs, one thing that people talk about is the fact that if you want to be productive, if you want to build something that that is impactful, you need to be extra focused. You need to pull in all of your energy, your strength, your focus, just pull it into this thing. But here you are, being able to build a company to the magnitude that you have, and still able to do other things that most people could only dream of, which is to see the world and just live this lifestyle that only that people could only imagine. How has that been able to, how have you been able to make that possible, especially building this company to what it is right now, and being everywhere all at once, and having all of these incredible experiences? What has that been like for you?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think it's important to make the distinction. The first 5 years, maybe 6 years of building GreenPal, I was chained to my desk in a windowless office with my team, and I think that's what was required at that stage of the game, going from 0 to 1, and inventing a new product, and inventing a platform that connects buyers and sellers. It was really, really challenging, and I don't know that I could have done that stage of the game remotely. I don't know if I could have done that stage of the game over Zoom. It really needed to have my team and I in one room on a whiteboard. And after that, after we kind of got to maybe level 2 of the game, a couple of thousand customers, a little bit of revenue, some money coming in so we could put money back out to work, we were then able to kind of not take our foot off the gas, but not have to almost like run so hard we almost killed ourselves doing it. And so for me, that's that's how I experienced it. Now, I've known several entrepreneurs that have gone from 0 to 1 and have done it remotely and done it living a nomadic lifestyle. For me, I don't know that I could have. And I saw a funny meme the other day where somebody took a picture of this office tower, and a big blue office tower, and in the upper right-hand corner is a big Zoom sign. And it's like, why does Zoom have offices?
I saw that. That, hold on. I mean, Zoom, they encourage remote work, but not working remotely. What's going? I saw that, and it was quite funny.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and I looked at that, and I'm like, damn, why does Zoom have offices? And Zoom is it makes magic happen. It's a very complex product and platform.
Yeah.
And so, to pull something like that off, I think they have to get everybody in a room together. And I get asked this all the time: do you believe in a remote team where everybody's got to be together? And another quote I heard once somewhere was, do you think the iPhone could have been built over Zoom? And I don't think it could have been. So I think it depends on what stage of the game you're at. Begin with the end in mind. What does 5-10 years from now look like with your business? Work backwards. Can you do that living a remote nomadic lifestyle? And for me, my personal belief is like, put in the 1, 2, or 3 years of grind in an office somewhere. Go from 0 to 1. Then you can kind of enjoy that hard work by working on the business still, but enjoying the environment in which you're doing it.
Right. That's a great advice, because I see a lot of people. I honestly believe it's sort of like the saying that you're putting the cart before the horse. A lot of the great things that we see around us today, the great companies that we enjoy, the products that they've built, I don't think, like you said, they could have done a lot of things without being in the same physical location. I mean, at later stages of the business, I think it can be possible. It is possible to build stuff and to just build a lifestyle business, or a lifestyle that revolves around, business that revolves around the lifestyle. But take me back a little bit to, the early stages, right? When you were starting out. From what I learned about you, you have a background in landscaping, if that's the right one, and you kind of just transitioned into using technology to enhance what you did. And one of the things that was funny about what I read about you was you taught yourself how to code, how to build websites, how to put this thing on the web. What was the early stages like for you? And those early stages of you learning how to code, I mean, I can't imagine how it must have been. Just walk me through those initial stages, what was going through your mind at the time, and just like set the scene for me about what was going on in that time.
Yeah, it was super challenging. And looking back, that was 10 years ago. It doesn't feel like 10 years ago. I think we're kind of like a 10-year overnight success. Wow. But yeah, we had to teach ourselves how to code, how to build software. To your point, my first business was a landscaping business. I started mowing grass as a kid in high school, and little by little built that into a real company, eventually getting that business around 150 employees, over 10 million a year in revenue. And in 2013, my landscaping company was acquired by a national company. And I learned a few things about myself going through that. After I sold it, I thought that I was just going to kind of live this easy lifestyle, that I was just going to do like passive investing and just put my money to work and not have to grind on anything anymore. And that lasted about 6 months. I got super bored. I started feeling like discontent and like there was some kind of like something missing. And I realized that my business was the thing that was enabling me to live a rewarding life, that it was giving me purpose. It was giving me meaning. And now that I sold it, that was gone. And so I thought, well, damn, I guess I got to start another business. I don't really want to do that again because that was really hard, but I need to start something. And I thought, well, a tech business looks to be easy. Maybe I'll just do that. and it was kind of like, I was like super naive about it, but it was a good thing. It was like an asset. Being naive was an asset. Cause if I'd known how hard it was going to be, I never would have done it. But I thought, well, I said an app should exist for this industry I know, Like somebody should be able to like push a button and order a lawn care service to come mow their yard. And that was the idea. And I thought, well, it'll be a couple years of work and we'll be off and going. And nobody told me that the main reason why a tech business is challenging and hard is because usually you're inventing a new product from scratch. You're inventing something new and bringing it to the marketplace. And while running a landscaping company or a construction company or a restaurant or a traditional type of business, those are also challenging, but you're not really inventing a new way of doing things. You're following a kind of a proven model. Whereas you're inventing a new app. There is no model. There is no roadmap. There is no plan of attack. It's basically just going from failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm. And that was really challenging. It was daunting. We didn't know how to code, and so we paid a development shop $150,000 to build what we thought GreenPal should be, and we launched that, and it was a total failure. It didn't work. It didn't have the features it needed, and so we learned a hard lesson that if we were going to be in the technology space, that my co-founders and I were going to have to learn how to write software. And begrudgingly, I took every online class I could. My co-founder went to a boot camp. Wow. He put like $10,000 on a credit card to pay for a boot camp. And after about a year, we were able to rebuild the whole thing ourselves and then hustle up a few customers and then make some little small goals, knock those goals down, and then never look back. That's how we've gotten where we are today.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. I mean, when you talk about learning to code or going to boot camps and learning a new skill from scratch, I mean, you're not 10 years ago. I mean, you're not 17.
Yeah, right.
Obviously.
Right.
This must have been, and when I think about this, I mean, without knowing what I know now, without you having narrated the story, I'm thinking, oh, maybe you just, took some online classes and hired someone and just oversaw what they did. But you're saying you actually went down to the basics of learning the CSS and JavaScript and whatever frameworks that was required to build this thing. Is that accurate? Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, it's exactly how it went down. So I didn't take the money I made from selling my first business and plow it into GreenPal. So GreenPal very much had to sing for its supper day one, and a couple of reasons why. I knew that I didn't know. I knew enough to know that I didn't know what I was doing. And I figured if I took the money I made from my first company, I would waste it. And I knew that from that moment forward, I didn't ever want to have to push a mower ever again. I never wanted to pick up a weed eater ever again. So I took all of the money I made and put it all into real estate. I just bought houses, single family homes, and rented them out. And I thought, okay, I can't screw that up, because they're illiquid. It's like a 3-month process to sell one, and so I'm going to bank all that. And so whatever I do from this moment forward, I got a little bit of money, but not much to screw it up. And so we my two co-founders and I pulled our money together, and we spent it all on this development shop. We spent damn near all of our money to pay this shop to build it. And so when we were licking our wounds from that, we were broke, and our backs were against the wall.
Wow.
We couldn't pay another developer. We couldn't pay another shop. We had to take it down to the code, learn Ruby on Rails, learn JavaScript, learn HTML, CSS. And I became the world's worst, most terrible front-end engineer. And my co-founder became a decent back-end engineer, and that took a while. But to your point, I was very much a blue-collar entrepreneur at the time. I was 33 years old. I didn't even know what HTML was, and now I'm having to learn this whole new skill. And what that taught me about myself was to not believe my own BS, to not believe a lot of times, as people, as founders, we associate these titles and labels associated with ourselves. And it's and we think, I can't do that because I'm not an engineer. Go get an engineer to do that.
Right.
When in fact, you can become 80-20 good at, you can learn the 80% of skills in 20% of the time to become
Absolutely.
dangerous enough to do pretty much anything. And that period of my life taught me that I could learn pretty much anything I had to learn to get to the next level of the game. And I'm glad I did that. It sucked at the time, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think there is, because I have, quite a number of founder friends, tech founders who are, sort of like in pre-seed round series, friends and family and stuff like that. And I see it that it's quite a challenge to build a product from scratch, especially if you don't have maybe a co-founder or someone who you can hire on the cheap who has like a technical knowledge, and being able to say, you know what, I think I'm going to learn this thing and I'm going to build it myself is the greatest advantage there is, because you are the founder, you understand the product, you have the vision, and you know exactly what it needs to in order to like meet that criteria that you set for yourself. So I think that's really brilliant. So I also, fast forward a little bit, you now build this product, it's out there in the market. I mean, I can't imagine that it, started making money from day one. I mean, getting customers is probably like the hardest thing anyone would ever do. I don't care what industry you're in. How did you get those first paying customers, to start using, GreenPal, and start, seeing some traction and say, you know what, I think what we're doing right now is starting to pay off? What was the initial days like, getting the first paying customers and starting to get traction from that?
Yeah, man, it's a great question. It's a great thing to ask, because there's a lot of new founders overlook that part and don't think about that in the early days. And I know I didn't. And there's
Why?
If you have T-Mobile 5G home internet, you might be hearing this
Why?
a lot.
Why?
Every time your internet slows down during the busiest hours.
Why?
Because your network gives priority to cell phone users.
Why?
Good question. Why not switch to Cox Internet with 2 times faster download speeds than T-Mobile 5G home internet during peak hours?
Okay.
Stop the whys and visit cox.com/5G home for details. T-Mobile prioritizes certain T-Mobile phone users over home internet users during times of congestion.
So there's a saying that now I know now that makes a lot of sense, that first-time founders worry about product, and second-time founders worry about distribution, because the second-time founder knows that actually building the product is the easy part. The hard part is getting customers, is getting people to use it, and I learned this the hard way. We wasted a year paying a development shop to build it. That was a failure. We got like 20 customers. And then we spent another year learning how to code and rebuilding it. And then we launched that into the marketplace, and it was like, if you build it, they will not come. It was crickets. And so with a marketplace, you've got a chicken and egg problem with the marketplace. You got to get sellers on at just the right time as the buyers, and you got to balance the number of each of them. And so there's this delicate orchestration that you have to do to get the critical mass of buyers and sellers. And so we were doing all of this, and we realized, holy crap, man, like everything we've done, learn how to code, build this thing, that's the easy part. The hard part is now figuring out how we're going to attract people to use this platform, because that's really what we got to be good at. And the first 100, maybe 500 people, we got just by passing out flyers, door hangers all over Nashville, Tennessee. That's what we had to do at that stage of the game, just to get a handful of people to use our new crappy app that we just launched. So then we could start learning how to fix it, learning what things needed to be improved, learning what was confusing people, what they wish it would do that it didn't, and then learning a distribution strategy. And eventually what we landed on was Google organic search was going to be the best thing that we could invest our time in to get people to the platform. And then we're confronted with the reality that that's like a 2 or 3 year ramp. And we started super small, made little small goals, started creating content for really long tail keywords, started to rank for them, started to build up a little bit of authority, and started to get the snowball going where we could get some momentum going in that channel.
Right. And, that's because, again, I know people today that they launched an app. I mean, this is in reference to, one of my friends, a couple of my friends who came together, built a solid product that I think is really, important in the freelance community, in the creative world. And, with the power of social media, they have, quite an engaged following. And I would say in less than 2 weeks, they had over 3,000 users. And I thought that was insane. And you didn't have this at the time. I'm assuming you didn't have like thousands of followers on, social media and whatnot. And I know what probably the response would be, but do you think that would have been an advantage if you probably had that at the time?
Yeah, it would have helped. It certainly would have helped. And you see this every day with influencers, being able to launch, 9-figure brands overnight because they have the distribution. There's a reason why Mr. Beast can stand up $100 million business in 6 months because he already has the distribution, and that's the hard part. It's kind of like this. Like let's say I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, which is the home of country music, and so every day we get 100 people moving here every day that want to be a country music star, and we're home. You can walk up and down Broadway and see some of the best guitarists in the world who are unknown. You don't know who they are. And so you think like to become a successful musician, you got to be a good songwriter and you got to be a good guitarist and so on. And then you come to realize like, and maybe you put in all this work to cut an album and so on, and then you launch the album, and then you realize that was all the easy part. Getting 100 people to show up to my concert is the hard part. And so an entrepreneur goes through this same shocking awakening. Like as you pour your heart and soul into a product, you release it, you can't get anybody to use it. Yeah. So if I had a following in the early days, if I was Bob Vila or something, in the home improvement space, it might have helped. But if I was like a social media influencer, I don't know that it would have helped much because our users are a single mother in Lincoln, Nebraska that needs somebody to mow their yard. How am I going to get my product where she needs it? It's like there's product market fit, and then there's product channel fit. And so for us, our product and SEO as a channel are like peanut butter and jelly. Like they are a match made in heaven. Our product and a great podcaster or YouTube influencer or an Instagram influencer, not a good product channel fit. So I don't know that it would have helped me all that much with getting this particular platform going.
Yeah, because I asked that because, a lot of people who are trying to start a business, which is, the majority of people who watch the YouTube channel, listen to the podcast, I should say, because I'm also one of them, we kind of discount the importance of what you just said now, product channel fit or product market fit, and just focus on, if I have a great product and I just, blast some ads on social media, people are just magically going to sign up. And, like you said, it doesn't necessarily mean that having, a huge following is necessarily going to, get you those initial users or customers and get that traction. And not necessarily discounting the power of doing the work and getting out there, like you said, hanging up flyers and going all around town in the initial days. I think there's still space for that. There's still a need for that, and in fact, that is still one of the things that is going to get this type of business going. And I think that's a nice segue into what I want to ask is which is now that your GreenPal has kind of taken off, seen the success that it has. When you look back now and you look at the success that has come after launch and all that, I think there is an advantage there. And I want you to explain that to me, which is combining something that is needed by almost everyone in America. Like if you're aspiring to the American dream, which is owning a home, having a family, live in the suburbs, something like that, you will inevitably need someone to mow your lawn at some point. And I think combining that with technology, it sort of creates like this blue ocean landscape. Do you think that's a contributor to the success of your GreenPal and how well it's done in this industry? And if so, what I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think the least glamorous and more practical and least sexy the idea, the greater your chances of success. So it doesn't get any more non-glamorous than cutting the lawn. Not everybody's looking to innovate in this particular use case, and so that can be helpful. It certainly has been for us, but don't conflate that with, okay, everybody needs this, everybody has it, therefore success should be easy because everybody needs this. Because you kind of get into this trap of trying to boil the ocean, and so for us, we had to start really small and try to like get a little spark going of connecting pros and consumers at a very small level, just in a bedroom community of Nashville, Tennessee, making it work there with 5 or 10 suppliers and 30 or 40 homeowners, and figuring out how that works. Okay, and now let's go to some other towns around Nashville. Okay, now we've got 5 or 6 of those. Let's get Nashville going. Okay, we spent 2 years just in Nashville figuring it out, getting it going. Wow. Then went to Atlanta, then went to Tampa, and slowly like moved throughout the country in these concentric circles. And that's how we needed to roll it out. Had we tried to boil the ocean of saying, okay, there's a lot of lawns in Miami, let's just go launch Miami and figure, because everybody needs it. That's not how these things like ignite, and it's not how these things take hold. There's a great book about this called The Cold Start Problem. A guy named Andrew Chen, who's a famous venture capitalist who was a growth person at Uber, wrote this book about the cold start problem. And so just because everybody has the problem, everybody needs a solution for the problem, there's still going to be a huge obstacle of the cold start to get the critical mass of users you need to then kick off the network effects that begin to compound. And so I see a lot of entrepreneurs get into that trap. And a lot of it relates to building apps and services for consumers. It's really, really hard to get a consumer app off the ground because consumers are fickle. Their needs are always changing. They can be insatiable at times. You're competing against Amazon, whether you know it or not. I'm in the lawn mowing. I'm in the how do I make lawn mowing as easy as pushing a button, and I'm competing in a way with Amazon. You might say, well, Amazon doesn't offer lawn mowing. No, but Amazon can make something appear at your door in 2 hours, and that is the mindset that a consumer comes to my platform with. That they want somebody to mow their yard in 2 hours, even if it's 4 feet tall. So in a way, the consumer is indoctrinated to these Amazon, Uber-like experiences. Right. So then you, as the entrepreneur, have to deliver on an experience have to keep up with that, as magical as that. So in a way, like that's hard. That's interesting because like I was waiting for you to to bring those together, to connect those in a way that maybe Amazon might create a product that mows your yard in 24 hours or something like that. But now when you talk about the mindset upgrade that people have kind of had in the last 10 years, it kind of puts everyone in competition with Amazon in a way if you're creating a consumer product. Exactly. Because now you have to, that instant gratification that people enjoys with Amazon, you have to live up to that. You have to deliver that because that is the expectation now. Exactly. Right? Jeff Bezos has got a great quote. He says, "The thing I love the most about the customer is they are divinely discontent." And today's innovation is like yesterday's forgotten news. So it's like it doesn't matter how good your product or service is. It's like Yeah, that's what consumers expect. They expect an Amazon experience. They expect an Uber experience. They expect it to work perfectly and seamlessly. And so you, as you know, you're
Right.
bringing a new product or service to the marketplace. That's table stakes. And this is a $1 trillion company. You're a startup, and so that's one of the things. Like building, like closing the gap between your product's experience and what they can get on Amazon is what you have to like
Right.
do as a founder, and it can be challenging.
Right. So Amazon is sort of like the North Star. If you think Amazon can do better, then you need to step up your game.
That's right.
Got it. Now let's let's kind of take a little a little bit further. Those initial wins started coming in. Now, I mean, obviously, I was just typing in the company into Google, and Wikipedia came up, and I'm seeing all of these numbers. Raised this amount, this couple of $1 million in 2000, this and that, and lots of employees. At what point did you come to the conclusion, or maybe not a conclusion, or just start to realize that what, I think we might be onto something. I think we'll survive. I think we'll make it.
Yeah. It's an important moment to get to as a startup founder. It doesn't matter if you're just trying to build something that makes 10 grand a month, or you're trying to build a $1 billion platform. Getting to that moment where it's like, okay, I'm on to something. This is working. This is no longer like pulling teeth to make it happen. Is an important moment because if you can't get to that moment, then it's time to back up and pivot to something else. But getting to that moment is important, because then you can decide, okay, I'm going to spend the next decade of my life on this mission. And the moment is not as big as you think. For me, it happened in like year 2. My co-founders and I, we were all working on a Saturday or a Sunday, and I remember that day 30, 40 people signed up and transacted on the platform, and I didn't know who any of them were. I had never heard any of their names, because up until then, everything was very hand cranking, and it was very manual, and we were like trying to like white glove, like concierge, the customer experience. And that was the first moment where somebody I didn't know could discover our platform through a Google search, could sign themselves up, could get quotes from another person I didn't know, could read their profile, put their credit card in, hire them, and then that person show up, do a great job mowing the yard, and then the other person pay them. And like that was the first moment where that happened like 40 times in a day. And that was the first moment in which I was like, this is going to work. Because if I can get that 40 to 400, and I get to 4,000, and I get to 40,000, I'll have something. And so that's an important moment. I think maybe even like know what that moment looks like and set it as a goal, and say, if I can't do this, if I can't get to $1,000 a month in 2 years, then I'm going to back up and do something else. And I have a fire in my belly to get there. I'm going to do everything I can. It's like my get rich or die trying. I'm going to do everything I can to get there. But if I can't get to this, then it's time to pack it up and do something else. That was the moment for me, and it's important for every founder to know that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, that really, struck a chord with me, because, a good number of people who watch this as well are, not necessarily like, local services business founders, or people who want to do that kind of business. A lot of people just want to create something on the internet. For example, you start a YouTube channel. That's what everybody wants to be now, a YouTuber, right? And they want to use that as a medium to sell things, maybe a digital product or things of that nature. And I can remember like 5 years ago, even like when I was trying to create something, I just moved from Nigeria to the United States. About 6 years ago. Then a year after that, I was just trying to sell something on the internet. I set up this little website, and I put up an ad on Facebook, $5 a day. It was a lot of money, and I was freaking out. And I remember I made that one sale of I think it was a $7 trinket I picked up somewhere. And that $7 felt like it felt like $7 million that I just made the entire money that I needed to survive for the rest of my life. And that was the same thought that went through my head. I don't know this person. They went on the website, they put in the credit card, and they paid me money for this product I'm trying to sell. So I think, like you said, it's really important for everyone who's trying to build something to really set that as a goal, especially when you are doing maybe, B2C, or D2C, or whatever that is, as a goal that, you know what, when a stranger can actually pay me without me having to interfere in the end of the process, I think the idea might be worth something at that point. I think that's really important. So thanks for sharing that. So I mean, you've mentioned a couple times, about having co-founders and whatnot. And I know that the landscape of business, having co-founders might be a little bit daunting to a lot of people, challenging a little bit. People think they can do it alone. And I just want to get your perspective on that subject of, bringing on people or versus doing it solo as a solo founder. I know a lot of people might lean more towards one than the other. What's your experience been like having co-founders and building a business together with other people? Has there been experiences that you think may have contributed to the success of the company? And if so, what are some of the things that you can allude to?
Yeah, I wouldn't be where we are today with GreenPal had I not had co-founders. So it worked out for me, but I see bad co-founder dynamics kill more startups than anything. So my general advice, generally speaking, is if you can go it alone, take it as far as you can by yourself alone. And then if you find your business co-founder soulmate, the person you can't imagine not starting the business with, then metaphorically get married to them. Because it really is a marriage. It's so funny that, in the United States, we'll put a year, 2 years, 3 years into dating our spouse, and then we'll get engaged for a year, 4 years. A lot of times on average, just 4 years from meeting your spouse to getting married. But we'll start a tech startup with a co-founder we've known for 2 weeks. And the reality is it's easier to unwind and reconcile that marriage than it is the operating agreement with your co-founder. And so take it as seriously as a marriage, because it really is. And Paul Graham calls it getting a hacker and a hustler. Ideally, you get somebody who is driven by getting the business going and is a hustler by nature. They're an animal. They're really trying to get this business going. And then you got a hacker. You got somebody who knows how to code, who can execute on the vision of the other person and bring it alive through execution and technology. And in these two skill sets come together, and 1 + 1 is 3 or 5. And that can be helpful, but it's really hard to find that. And so when looking for co-founders, think of it like a marriage. Think of it like your business soulmate. Look for what I call builders. Don't look for an idea person. Don't look for a quote unquote business person. Look for a designer. Look for a coder. Look for a developer. People who can build, because you're going to need to be MacGyver, and you're going to need to be able to build your way out of problems. Right. You're going to need to be able to use your skills to get this thing going, get it where it's got to go. And business/idea person graduated with an MBA in business school isn't usually the type of tactical builder you need in those early days. And so that's another thing I'll say. And then the last thing I'll say is a quick test would be to imagine, okay, let's just say you were like me and you had a service business that you built and sold. You spent 15 years building it. And let's just say you sold it for $5 million. Now, let's just imagine you got $5 million in the bank. You're going to start this business. This co-founder you want to start the business with, would you write them a check for $5 million today to start that business with you? And if the answer is yes, then let's go. If the answer is no, then don't do it. Because if the business is successful, their equity is going to be worth $5, $10, $20 million very quickly. And you may want to raise venture capital, and you're going to take on dilution to the effect of $5 or $10 million anyway for selling them a chunk of equity that's equal to the equity you're giving this person. So you might as well work through that decision making and say, okay, if I had $5 million, yes, I would give it to this person because I can't imagine starting this business without them. There's no way I'm going to be successful without their help and their contribution.
Wow, that's really valuable insight there. I think a lot of founders are going to find this, really helpful. And now you talked about, venture funding, which, leads me to, this I'm about to ask. Like, at some point, did you have to seek venture funding, and what was that process like? If you did, I'm not sure. I think I may have read something like that, but did you seek venture funding at some point?
In the early days, we subscribed to this idea, this Silicon Valley idea of okay, we're going to go raise a seed round, and then we're going to raise a Series A, Series B, and so on. And so that's what at the onset what we intended to do. And so we were in the early days taking all the meetings we could, and I was just like so disenchanted with the process. It's like I got to sit here and take 100 meetings and beg and hope somebody writes me a check for 25 or 50 grand to help me start this thing. And I'm like, this is a waste of my time. Like, I need to go build a product. and go hustle up some customers, and I don't have to grovel over these $25,000 checks. Like, this is such a waste of everybody's time. And so I was like, I want to build a product that raises a seed round every month with revenue. That's what I want to do. And so that's what we did. I was like, to hell with that. We're just going to build a product that makes money. And that's what we did. And it took a couple years, but now, but at that time we were making enough money where we didn't need a seed round. And then we could have raised a Series A, but at that time, the tidal wave of venture capital was going into other Uber for X ideas. So Uber for home cleaning, Uber for valet parking, Uber for laundry service, you name it. And
those are quite popular then.
Yeah, 13, 14, 15.
Now it's AI. Yeah, now it's AI.
Yeah, right. And so I started, I'm on the sidelines of this venture capital party, and I'm just kind of, I'm peeking over the fence of the pool party, and I'm looking at what's happening, and I'm seeing that Uber for home cleaning raises $100 million. And 18 months later, Uber for home cleaning shutters its doors. And I'm like, damn, they burned through $100 million. Like, that's a team. That's somebody's family. That's a bunch of money. Like, I don't want to go through that. And so I thought from that moment, I'm like, to hell with that. Yeah. We're just going to build a sustainable business. Luckily, we weren't in a dynamic where it was like a land grab. It wasn't like somebody was going to pull the rug out from under us and steal the dream from us. We could afford to go pragmatically and slow, and that worked for us. I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I think, like everything, it depends. And for us, building the business off of its own revenues was the right call.
How powerful is Cox Internet? So powerful that one day your daughter will be able to simulate a soccer match against some of the world's best players right from your backyard. Get gig speeds powered by fiber from Cox. It's internet built for tomorrow, today. Internet delivered through Cox's hybrid fiber coax network. Speeds vary and are not guaranteed. Cox terms and other restrictions apply.
Trying to grab all the groceries in one trip? Oof. Not how you would have done that. Sometimes less is more. Like when you drive less and save with the USAA annual mileage discount. USAA. Get a quote today.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard this many times. Like the moment you take that investment, that venture fund, the pressure just goes up. multiple folds, and now there's a pressure to keep the doors open, and the business has to succeed because this investors has to exit one way or another. So like you said, I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it just doesn't work. And I mean, I just want to get into more of sort of like looking back, segment now, I should call it that. If you would have done things differently, I know like you learned so much, and there are a lot of lessons you've learned along the way, and a lot of things you could have done differently looking back now. What would those things be? If you could just mention maybe one or two, or maybe three things that you could have done differently, or how many lessons you've learned in that time period that, knowing what you know now, could have accelerated things for you or made things easier.
Yeah, you never know. You don't know what you don't know when you first get started. So you're always going to screw a bunch of things up. And it really, the whole thing is one experiment. It's just a bunch of sets of experiments, and you're just figuring it out as you go. And so you can look back and you can say, damn, that took too long. But you didn't know what you didn't know. And so, yeah, you have all the answers to the test. And so, of course, you could do it quicker the second time around. Like if Doc from Back to the Future rolls up in the DeLorean and says, hey, let's go back 10 years ago and let's start this whole thing over again, I could do what took us 10 years. I could probably do in 2 or 3 because I kind of have the answers. Right. I have the roadmap now. But that just took time.
Of course.
It took time. It took experimentation. It took trial and error, and that takes time. And so, but one thing I would do differently is I would learn how to delegate a little better. And what I mean by that is delegation's a weird thing because everybody's like, oh, you got to delegate. Oh, you'll never scale until you delegate. You'll never get leverage until you delegate. But you can delegate too soon. So I made both mistakes. I delegated too soon, and then I delegated too late. And so, even though I was a second-time founder, I was still pretty much a first-time founder because I had never built a tech company. And so I delegated too soon. I thought, well, this is what the app should be. This is what the GreenPal platform should be. Here, you development shop. You've got 20 engineers, 5 designers. You're set up for this. I'm delegating this to you. You go build it. Let me know when it's done. And that was a total waste of time and money because I didn't know. I didn't know what I was delegating. I wasn't delegating from like stewardship. I was delegating from abjuration. Like, I don't know how to do this. You handle it. And that blew up in my face. And so here we,
or simply out of convenience.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Or laziness. I don't want to learn how to code. That's really hard. The last thing I want to do is watch YouTube tutorials on JavaScript until midnight, coding up
which you eventually now had to go do.
Had to do it because I had to get like some kind of 80-20 acumen around the thing to be able to delegate it. And so delegated too soon. That was a mistake that I would make over again, that I would correct. And then I delegated too late. We then did everything ourselves for 4 years. We wrote all the code. We did all the customer support. We wrote all the content. We did all the design. We did everything ourselves. And because I had the scars from like wasting our bankroll and damn near bankrupting the company, I didn't want to make that mistake again. And so then I delegated too late. Cost us too much time. I could have built up a team around a lot of these things as we were getting 80-20 good at them. And so that was the mistake that I made. Is there's a happy medium between the two, and I've made it. I delegated too soon and then delegated too late.
Wow, those are two very important lessons to learn. I mean, you hear this flying around every now and then. Oh, you have to delegate, but there are also some nuance to that as well. Delegating too soon is a thing, and too late is a thing as well. Right. So we always need to keep that in mind. And now, I just want to ask, because you have such wealth of knowledge, especially coming from the background that you did, now building a company as you have in the last couple of years that has gone on to do really well. And a lot of people who are listening right now or watching, they builders, founders, people who could benefit from this kind of knowledge sharing that we are having right now. Is there something that you're doing right now? I mean, I know you want to give back. Are you in, say, the business or the service of educating people, perhaps people starting businesses or things of that nature? Because I would love that, to learn from you, as that's coming from a selfish, position. Is this something that you perhaps are looking to do at some point? Maybe groom the next generation of entrepreneurs, so that they don't make the same mistakes that you did.
Yeah, I love sharing my thoughts and philosophies on this stuff. Hopefully people, what I hope somebody gets from an interview with me is that they come away with the feeling of, if that guy can do it, I can do it too. And so that's the main message I try to convey. I think, if this company, I envision us running this business another 10 years, but if for some reason we find out that I suck as a CEO, we put in a professional CEO, or if you never know, the business gets acquired or something, then maybe I might write a book and professionally help other entrepreneurs get through the stages I've been through.
Right.
Right now, I share my thoughts on podcasts. I share some stuff on Instagram on tips and things that we've gone through, but I don't have any kind of like real intentional course or anything. Maybe one day, but not yet.
I mean, I will be the first. I mean, to get any one of that, because honestly, this is probably one of the most insightful conversations I've had in recent time, or that I can remember. I've had a lot of great conversations, mind you. So that's I just wanted to put that out there. I mean, thank you for for sharing all of that. I mean, you are traveling 47 countries in the last couple of years. A lot of people want to know, I'm very sure, how's the experience been like for you? I mean, what's your favorite place to work from, or to relax, or to just enjoy this time, and the freedom that you have to do that? Just share with me some of those. I like to live vicariously through people, so also that might be coming from a selfish position, but who knows?
Yeah. Well, for me, traveling and being in new environments is enriching, and it opens my mind to new experiences, new ways of doing things. It keeps me, I guess, on my toes, and like spiritually speaking, it helps me be in an expansive mindset. And I think if you can like combine the spiritual with the tactical, I think that can be deadly. And traveling helps me on the spiritual side. And one of my favorite quotes about this type of lifestyle by Rolf Potts, he says, "Walk until your day becomes interesting." And if I'm at my house in Nashville, I can walk around my neighborhood, and it doesn't matter what happens. It ain't going to be that interesting. But, it's going to be the same walk. It always was. And
Right.
It doesn't mean you shouldn't go for a walk. But if you're traveling, you're in a new city. Maybe you're in Mexico City, and you walk. I guarantee you, at a certain point in time,
or in Albania, like I am right now.
boom, you're gonna come across something that's interesting. Maybe it's like, oh, okay, they sell ants. I've never eaten a handful of ants. Let me try that. I don't know. Okay, kind of tastes like bitter, terrible tasting popcorn, but not bad. Okay, that was pretty interesting. And so, like, travel.
I can tell that's coming from real life experience.
Yeah,
huh?
had a handful of dried ants. Walking around Mexico City one time, and so. That's a cool thing, that if you can build a business that enables you to sustain yourself while being out there on the road, it can make your life enriching. It can make your life more interesting, which I think can be inspiring to build a better, more enduring business.
That's awesome. I think that's such an interesting way to live. The listeners, I'll let them, ruminate on that and just take everything all in. I don't want to take too much of your time. Hopefully, at some point in the future, I'll bring you back and we can talk travel. I mean, 47 countries is a lot. I'm pretty sure you have a ton of experiences, met a lot of people, and a lot of great stories to share as well. So thank you, Bryan, for coming on the Nomad Entrepreneur Podcast. This has been an enriching conversation for me, so I appreciate it so much.
Well, thank you, Daniel. I enjoyed it.
Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, was my conversation with Bryan Clayton, the co-founder and CEO of your GreenPal. If you enjoyed it, let me know down in the comments. I believe on Spotify, you can actually leave a comment about an episode. Let me know your thoughts and your feelings about it. And again, if you have not left a review on the podcast, please kindly do so. It takes about 30 seconds. Let me know how you feel if you enjoy this episode, because it really informs what kind of guests I bring on and where to steer the conversation. I want to thank you again for taking time out today for listening to this episode. It really means so much to me. You can reach out to me at ifdaniel@gmail.com. If you have any comments, questions, queries, if you want to sponsor this podcast, I am open to that as well. We have some interesting episodes lined up for you in the coming weeks and months. The conversation is only going to get better, so stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, your week, your month, whatever it is that you're listening from. Again, my name is Daniel, your host on the Nomad Entrepreneur Podcast, and I will talk to you in the next episode.
Match believes that adults date better because when you date as an adult, you get to be a little irresponsible with really responsible people. Rip the clothes off someone who actually knows how to put them away. Fall stupidly in love with someone who's actually really smart. Forget being hot. Get them to ugly laugh. Ready to crush on someone who makes you feel whole? If you know who you are and what you want in a relationship, Match is the place for you. Adults wanted. Download the Match app today. Match believes that adults date better because when you date as an adult, you get to be a little irresponsible with really responsible people. Rip the clothes off someone who actually knows how to put them away. Fall stupidly in love with someone who's actually really smart. Forget being hot. Get them to ugly laugh. Ready to crush on someone who makes you feel whole? If you know who you are and what you want in a relationship, Match is the place for you. Adults wanted. Download the Match app today.